"The Solaris Tower will redefine Chicago's skyline," announced Victor Reynolds, flashing his signature camera-ready smile at the assembled investors and city officials. A perfect fusion of sustainability and luxury that will stand as a monument to modern architecture. Applause filled the elegant presentation room as Victor gestured expansively at the stunning architectural renderings projected on the wall behind him. My renderings, my design, my vision. While I sat quietly in the back row, taking notes like the diligent project coordinator I was supposed to be. My name is Nora Harlow, and for 3 years I've been the invisible architect behind Reynolds Design Group's most celebrated projects. Not that anyone in this room would know it. The double helix exoskeleton isn't just visually striking, Victor continued, using terms I had carefully explained to him just hours earlier. It's a revolutionary structural system that eliminates the need for internal support columns, creating uninterrupted floor plans while improving seismic resilience. More appreciative murmurs from the audience. Mayor Daniels nodded approvingly. The Solaris Tower project would bring 2,000 jobs and millions in tax revenue to the city if Reynolds Design Group won the competition, which after this presentation seemed increasingly likely. Questions? Victor asked confidently, knowing he had them dazzled. The sustainability features are impressive, noted Eliza Chan, the notoriously tough head of the city's Urban Development Committee. Zero carbon footprint is a bold claim. How exactly does the building achieve this? Victor's smile flickered almost imperceptibly. We hadn't rehearsed this specific question. Well, it's quite technical, he began, falling back on his usual stalling tactic. The integrated systems work in concert. The building features a triple-layered approach. I interjected quietly from my seat, unable to watch him fumble through an answer that would expose his limited understanding. Passive systems like the double skin facade and strategic orientation reduce energy demand by 60%. Active systems, including the geothermal field beneath the plaza and the photovoltaic integration in the glass panels, generate clean energy. Finally, the rooftop vertical farm and green terraces offset remaining carbon through natural sequestration. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me, the slim, reserved woman in the simple gray suit who had suddenly spoken with unmistakable authority. Victor recovered quickly. Exactly as my project coordinator was saying, he said with a tight smile. Nora handles many of the technical details under my direction. Eliza Chan's sharp gaze remained on me, her expression thoughtful. And a structural innovation, the exoskeleton design looks familiar, yet different from anything I've seen. Before Victor could respond, I continued, it's inspired by natural forms, specifically the spiral structure of DNA combined with principles from bamboo growth patterns. The diagonal supports create triangulated load paths that distribute stress more efficiently than conventional systems, allowing for the column-free interiors while using 40% less steel. The mayor leaned forward, intrigued. Did you develop this system, Ms. Harlow? I supplied. Nora Harlow. And yes, the structural system is my design. Under my firm's guidance and approval, Victor added quickly, his voice hardening slightly. Nora is an invaluable team member who helps implement my conceptual vision. The lie hung in the air between us, familiar yet no less infuriating than the first time he claimed my work as his own. But today, unlike all the days before, I had no intention of letting it stand. I hadn't always been Reynolds Design Group's secret weapon. My story began at Yale's School of Architecture, where I graduated at the top of my class, followed by a prestigious internship at a Japanese firm known for structural innovation. My career seemed set for a meteoric rise, until I returned to Chicago and encountered the reality of the city's architectural old boys network. We're looking for someone with more seasoning, one firm told me, despite my exceptional portfolio. Our clients expect a certain gravitas in their architects, explained another, eyeing my petite frame and youthful appearance with poorly disguised skepticism. After 6 months of such rejections, I reluctantly accepted a position at Reynolds Design Group as a project coordinator, essentially an administrative role several levels below my qualifications. Victor Reynolds had built his firm on charm, connections, and taking credit for other people's ideas. His actual architectural knowledge was superficial at best, but his family name and Harvard pedigree opened doors throughout the city. I had planned to stay just long enough to make connections and move on. Then came the Lincoln Park Cultural Center project, a modest but high-profile design that Victor was struggling with. Deadline looming, designs rejected, he was growing desperate. "The proportions are wrong," I had commented quietly one evening, finding him staring dejectedly at failed concept sketches. "And I suppose you know how to fix them?" He'd snapped. "Actually, yes." I had taken out my personal sketchbook, showing him a concept I'd been developing in my spare time. His expression had shifted from dismissal to interest to calculated assessment in the space of seconds. 2 days later, he presented his design for the cultural center, my design, with minor modifications, to the clients. They loved it. The project was a success, earning widespread praise and opening doors to larger commissions. And so began our unspoken arrangement. I created, Victor presented. I designed, Victor took credit. With each successful project, I gained more operational freedom within the firm, if not public recognition. Junior architects and designers came to me for direction, though officially I remained just a project coordinator. For 3 years, I accepted this arrangement, telling myself I was gaining valuable experience, making connections, biding my time. The truth was more complicated. I had become addicted to seeing my designs built, even if my name wasn't on them. And Victor knew it. The Solaris Tower was different. This wasn't just another building, it was my masterpiece. A genuinely revolutionary design that would change urban architecture. And I have finally reached my breaking point. As the presentation concluded and attendees mingled over cocktails, Eliza Chan approached me, her expression curious. "Ms. Harlow, your understanding of the structural system is impressive. What's your background?" Before I could answer, Victor materialized beside us, champagne flutes in hand. "Nora's been with the firm for 3 years," he interjected smoothly, handing me a glass. "One of my most valued team members. Yale School of Architecture, top of my class," I added, ignoring Victor's sharp glance. "Followed by 2 years at Tanaka Associates in Tokyo, specializing in structural innovation." "Tanaka?" Eliza raised an eyebrow. "I'm familiar with their work. Quite prestigious." "Nora's being modest about her role here," Victor said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "She handles important coordination functions, but the Solaris design is very much a Reynolds Design Group creation. My creation, with support from our senior architectural team." I took a deliberate sip of champagne, letting the moment stretch uncomfortably. "That's interesting," I finally said, considering I have dated design development drawings going back 18 months with my signature on every page. Victor's smile froze. "Well, all our team members contribute. And a structural system that's being called revolutionary? I hold the provisional patent on it." The glass in Victor's hand trembled slightly. "I think you're confused about intellectual property laws regarding work done while employed. I filed the patent before joining Reynolds Design Group," I clarified calmly. "I've simply been developing it since then, on my own time, meticulously documented as personal work." Eliza Chan watched this exchange with growing interest, her shrewd eyes moving between us. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion privately," Victor suggested tightly, his public persona slipping. "I'm afraid I don't have time for a private discussion," I replied. "I have a meeting with the selection committee in 30 minutes. This was news to Victor. "What selection committee?" "The one deciding who gets the Solaris Tower commission," I said evenly. "They requested a meeting after receiving some rather interesting documentation regarding the true authorship of the design." The blood drained from Victor's face as the implications hit him. For 3 years he had assumed my silence was submission. He had never considered that I might be documenting everything, building a case, waiting for the perfect moment to reclaim my work. That moment had arrived. "You can't do this," he hissed, dropping all pretense of civility. "You signed contracts." "I signed an employment agreement as a project coordinator," I corrected him. "Not as an architect, not as a designer, and certainly not as the creative force behind your firm's success. The agreement says nothing about architectural concepts developed independently, especially those conceived before my employment began." Eliza Chan had been listening to this exchange with increasing fascination. "I believe the committee will find this meeting quite illuminating, Ms. Harlow. Perhaps I should join you." Victor's desperation was now palpable. "Nora, be reasonable. We can renegotiate your position, discuss partnership possibilities." 3 years too late for that discussion, Victor. I set down my untouched champagne. You should prepare a statement for your clients explaining the upcoming changes to your firm's design credits. As I turned to leave with Eliza, Victor grabbed my arm. You'll never work in the city again if you do this. I have connections. So do I replied, gently but firmly removing his hand. Connections who recognize actual talent when they see it, not just a family name and Harvard diploma. The selection committee meeting was brief but definitive. I presented my evidence. Original concept sketches dated years before joining Reynolds Design Group. Development drawings with my signature. Emails between myself and engineering consultants showing I was the true designer. Video recordings of design reviews where Victor clearly didn't understand fundamental aspects of his supposed creation, and testimonials from junior architects at the firm confirming my role. Most damning was the provisional patent application for the structural system, filed 2 years before I joined Reynolds, with detailed drawings that clearly evolved into the Solaris Tower design. By the next morning, the architectural world was buzzing with the news. The Solaris Tower commission had been awarded to Harlow Design Studio, a firm that hadn't existed 24 hours earlier. Reynolds Design Group was under investigation for fraud and misrepresentation, with clients across the city questioning who had actually designed their buildings. Victor issued a press statement claiming I had stolen his concepts, an allegation that crumbled when confronted with my mountain of evidence. His firm's reputation, built on taking credit for others' work, collapsed as quickly as a flawed foundation. 3 months later, I stood at the Solaris Tower groundbreaking ceremony, hard hat on, ceremonial shovel in hand. Beside me stood my rapidly growing team, including several former Reynolds employees who had seized the opportunity to work for a firm that recognized their contributions. Mayor Daniels made a speech about innovation and integrity. Eliza Chan nodded approvingly from the front row, and Victor Reynolds was nowhere to be seen. Last I heard, he had moved to Miami, trying to rebuild his career far from the Chicago scandal that now bore his name. A reporter approached me after the ceremony. Ms. Harlow, you worked silently in Victor Reynolds' shadow for 3 years while he took credit for your designs. Why wait so long to expose the truth? I considered the question carefully, remembering the meticulous documentation, the years of calculated patience, the strategic timing of my move. Architecture is about the long view, I replied. The most enduring structures aren't built in a day. They require foundation work that no one sees but everyone depends on. My evidence needed to be as carefully constructed as my buildings. And did you plan this all along? From the day you joined his firm? I smiled. Let's just say I designed more than buildings during my time at Reynolds Design Group. I designed a justice that would stand the test of time. 1 year later, Harlow Design Studio had grown from a one-woman operation to a 20-person firm with projects across 3 states. The Solaris Tower, now rising floor by floor above the Chicago skyline, had won multiple international awards for innovation. More importantly, the scandal had sparked conversations throughout the architectural world about credit, attribution, and the often invisible contributions of women and minorities in the field. Several major firms had implemented new policies requiring clear documentation of design authorship. In my new office, a light-filled space overlooking the Chicago River, I kept a small frame on my desk. Inside was the business card I had used at Reynolds Design Group, Nora Harlow, Project Coordinator. A daily reminder not of the injustice I had faced, but of the patient strategy that had eventually righted it. Sometimes true architectural genius isn't just about designing buildings that stand the test of time. It's about designing a path to justice just as meticulously as you would design a structure, with careful planning, proper documentation, and perfect timing. Victor had taught me one valuable lesson. In architecture, as in life, it's not enough to create something beautiful. You must also ensure that no one can take it from you. As the Solaris Tower rose higher each day, my vision, my design, my name finally attached to it, I thought about all the other project coordinators out there, their brilliance hidden behind someone else's facade. I had established a fellowship specifically for promising architects from overlooked backgrounds and a mentorship program that emphasized not just design skills, but strategic career navigation. Because the most important blueprint I ever created wasn't for a building at all. It was for a form of justice elegantly engineered to ensure that talent, not privilege, would ultimately prevail. And that was a design I was proud to put my name on.